All right. You may notice that Bob Rheault is not here. He's on your screen. If you remember, for those who traveled in by car, I heard about how risky and dangerous it was, and I know that some of you got rerouted by flights. Bob's flight rerouted him back to Rhode Island. We certainly wanted to give him a chance to talk about associations. So, Bob, can you say something, and let's see how the sound works.
Yeah, let's see if the sound works.
Okay.
Let me know.
You sound good. The voice from above.
Wow, well, that's magnificent. I really appreciate you making the effort to make this work. I know that it was a last-minute challenge. I certainly appreciate the fact that you guys had some exciting weather yesterday. I certainly would prefer to be down there in person because I understand I'm the only thing between you and happy hour. So I'll try and keep this brief and to the point. But I did have a bunch of stuff that I wanted to share with you, so I will get right to it. I've been doing this when we started the association about 23 years ago. I sold my farm about 13 years ago, and I've been the executive director of the East Coast Shellfish Growers ever since. And I started out, I learned that by starting in a state association, I could get a lot more done than just as, Bob Rheault writing letters. And then I learned that by starting the East Coast Shellfish Growers, we could get even more done. And then over the last couple of years, working with the NAA and other associations and teaming up with the PCSGA, I've learned that we can really get a lot of really amazing stuff done. So I want to share some of that work with you guys. But first, just a quick wrap up of who we are. On the East Coast, we've got about 1,500 farms. I really don't have good numbers for the Gulf yet, but before COVID, we were up to about $166 million in farm gate value with about 3,000 employees. The gorilla in the room is Virginia. The biggest oyster producer on the East Coast is Massachusetts. I'm over here in Rhode Island with about $6 million coming off of 40 farms. Lots of challenges. Most of the challenges are shared. Probably the only difference between the Gulf and Maine is that we speak funny up here and we have ice in the water. You guys get more hurricanes. But lots of stuff that I want to go over. First of all, we've really upped our game in terms of the website and what we offer there. I'm going to go through some of that stuff. I really am proud of what we've got up there in terms of resources, contacts, services, marketing tips. So I'm going to go right to the website, and hopefully the bandwidth will allow me to really go through some of what we've got going on. But if you go there, you can learn about our board of directors if you care. We've got this Find a Grower feature, which brings you up to where you can go and any member can put their information up here, and you can zoom in and find a farm and sell your product online, search by different products. And I encourage you to do that, whether it's farm tours or merchandise or stuff like that. I've got some of my members are making close to $750,000 on farm tours, which is absolutely mind-boggling and amazing. Of course, you can always join. You can learn about our legislative priorities. We haven't been able to actually go to DC for the last couple of years, so our last time I've had to actually have a handout to bring with somebody. We've been doing a lot of Zoom lobbying, which I really like. It turns out you can be quite effective on Zoom, reach a lot of offices rather quickly, and you don't have to wear a suit or those really uncomfortable shoes, and get a lot done. Some of the things that we've been working on for the last couple of years, the Merchant Marine Act.
Just really quickly, your website is not showing up. We're still seeing the ECSJ website slide. So you may just have to talk us through that, I think.
Okay, well, that's very important to know. So I had hoped that this would bring up our website, which is unfortunate. So what are you seeing?
We're seeing your slide that says ECSJ website with the bullets of training, contacts, and calendar services.
Let me see if I try a new share and.
Yeah, if you go to the share and you share your browser, just be sure that that's safe for consumption.
Yeah, so is that working?
That is showing us a word, okay, yeah, that's showing us the shellfish growers.
Okay, so
Yep.
this is the Word doc that talks about our legislative priorities. And I just wanted to point out that we are very close to getting this Merchant Marine Act exemption. We've got it into the Coast Guard Authorization Act. From there, it'll either pass the Senate as the Coast Guard Authorization Act, which typically passes without too much debate, or it'll go into the National Defense Authorization Act, which typically passes without too much debate as well. So it could be in law this fall unless somebody pulls it out. But this would, if you don't know about the Jones Act, it's expensive insurance you're supposed to buy so you don't get sued by an injured employee, in addition to the fact that you're probably also paying into your state workers' compensation. So we've been working for about 6 years to get out from under that. I am very glad that we are on the verge of getting this passed. We've also been working on getting shellfish genetics research, some other stuff, national aquaculture legislation, and active work in the FDA. So let me just back out of this.
I think you just go to, okay, there you go.
Go back to some of our, we also have our members page where you can meet some of our 250 odd grower members and learn about them and have links to all of them. Again, we've got our buying shellfish page where you can go and learn about different members of, any member can sign up to advertise on our site here and get listed, and all of the things that we offer, as I mentioned, farm tours and things like that. So lots of cool stuff there. A calendar of events, learn how to shuck 15 different ways, lots of great shucking videos, including one that I did blindfolded, just trying to get it to go viral. Don't repeat that at home. It's not safe. And then grower resources is where you'll find just a ton of stuff. We've got our best management practices module, which we are updating. Lots of stuff with biofouling control, bird interactions, which is a hot topic now with the FDA, COVID-19 resources, which I would have hoped we could get rid of, but hopefully, we're still in it. So lots of cool stuff. An employment page where you can list your jobs with various different listings, and then, the European Trade Agreement, which is something we've been working on for 12 years, and we finally just got access to sell our product to Europe. Now, it's limited currently for 2 states, Massachusetts and Washington State. We hope to be adding additional states soon, but that was just a huge lift, and hopefully it'll take some product off the market in the fall when we typically have a glut to help us keep our prices up. A list of extension agents, which is really valuable. If you don't know your extension agent, you should meet and learn about your extension agent. These are typically a huge resource about everything that you need to learn about. Again, the page where you sign up to get onto our Shellfish Buyers page, gear comparison studies, gear management, how to get started in various states, lots of tips. And as I said, getting started in Maine is not that much different from getting started in Florida. Lots of great tips on how to start a farm. Overwintering oysters, which up here is much more of a challenge than down where you guys are. And I highly advise you guys to, if you're just getting into this, watch my slightly entertaining video about the various mistakes that everybody who starts in shellfish farming makes. If you watch this, you can avoid these very expensive mistakes instead of repeating them. And I highly recommend that. Shellfish sanitation, shellfish seed biosecurity, I'm going to get to that in a minute. State-by-state regulations, storm preparation tips, lots of amazing, really great stuff that you can learn about. Health and food safety, this is obviously a big part of what we do. I spend a huge amount of my time working with the ISSC and the FDA, trying to keep them from putting us out of business. I believe that, strong regulations are necessary, but they have to be workable. If they put you out of business, they're not helping anybody. Lots of great stuff. The Vibrio resources, they call me the Vibrio evangelist because I do a lot of teaching about Vibrio resources. We've got a fact sheet up there. We have brochures, which I'm happy to share with you, even in Spanish, about harvesters for consumers, for truckers, everything that you could possibly want. We did have to deal with a lot of bad press about flesh-eating bacteria. It seems like the press loves to write about flesh-eating bacteria, but they often get their facts right, so we've got a great fact sheet on that. Lots of harvester education. I do the official training for our state for harvester education, which we pushed through and made the FDA actually educate the harvesters about the regulations before they write you up for a violation, which I think is very good. Newsletters, we've got every newsletter I've ever written, lots of great information. Our newest newsletter is up there right now, just posted yesterday, and hundreds of recipes. Interestingly, the one page that gets the most hits on our website is actually our recipe page, and a recipe about some sea scallop recipe is the #1 page hit on our website, but lots of great recipes that you can go figure. Anyway, so I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and let me see if I can get back to the...
Go down to your share at the bottom and share the different screen.
I'm working on it. All right. So lots of great stuff there on our website, and I just want to focus on the fact that we do go to DC. We have great relationships with a lot of offices that are in a great place to help us out. We've been getting a lot of good support for our breeding program and for research. And again, I work with the ISSC a lot to try and keep them from running us out of business. And then I spend a huge amount of time, every time there's an illness or an illness outbreak or a recall, the press wants to call me up and get the straight facts. And I'm the one person who will always tell them that, you must start your story by pointing out that all of the shellfish on the market is currently safe to eat. That the reason we're having these recalls and these closures is because we are doing a great job in preventing human illness. And they never follow through and actually print that because they're the press and they want to print something that bleeds so it leads. Again, we have been running a Listserve for 20 years, which is just a great source of information. You have to be a member to join, but it's an amazing resource. If you've got a question, it will get answered quickly by a bunch of pros who know the answer. We are having some technical issues. We got bumped off and had to go to Google Groups, which has been an absolute nightmare. We hope to have it resolved and be back and up and running real soon. We have some recent wins that I would like to highlight. Working with the NAA and all of the other farms that the NAA works with, we were able to get these amazing CFAP2 checks out the door, which were equal to essentially 5% of your 2019 sales, no questions asked, within a week. And a lot of farms were saved by that, and I'm really proud of that. But I couldn't have done it without partnering with the NAA and the catfish farmers and all the other associations that work with the NAA. And then more recently, we got access to the ELAP program, the Emergency Livestock Protection Program, which if you have not yet signed up for it, do so. Run, don't walk to your nearest farm service agency. It's on the front page of my last newsletter. This is a magnificent program which will cover 70 to 90% of your weather-related loss. It is not like the crappy NAP insurance that used to be available. It's still available. You can still sign up for NAP, but you actually have to pay for NAP, whereas ELAP is free. So sign up for ELAP. Don't be a fool. We got EU trade done. I'm really proud of that. We've got this shellfish breeding program, which I'm really jazzed about. We've gotten $2.7 million a year for ARS geneticists. We've sequenced the genome. They've got this thing called a SNP chip, which is a single nucleotide polymorphism, which is every mutation on the planet. And this little chip, which costs about $18 a piece, will tell you which of the 60,000 mutations that particular oyster has. And we are able to then work backwards and try and associate the different traits that an oyster has with those 60,000 mutations. And hopefully we'll quickly be able to accelerate our breeding program by selecting animals that have these desired traits. So that it'll be resistance to disease. We're working on resistance to dermo. We've already nailed the one that's got racing stripes. We've nailed the genes for shell cup, and we can select these animals now, and we're working to breed 100 families and plant them out in 5 different states and monitor growth and then look and see what their genetic profiles are. So I am really, really excited about the next 10 years of shellfish breeding. That is going to be very exciting. And this is going to be challenging. Again, I'm going to bring up a website, and I'm going to have to share this, so be a little bit patient. We've been working for literally 20 years trying to improve shellfish seed biosecurity. In other words, the regulations that will keep us from moving shellfish seed from state to state really make it difficult, because quite often the shellfish hatcheries are not in the states where the farms are. So we're always trying to move seed around, and the states are always trying to make that really hard because they have a lot of fear of the unknown. So we have had a couple of workshops. We had one 20 years ago. We had another one up in Maine about 10 years ago. And we identified what we call the low-hanging fruit, which essentially established an advisory panel of about 9 different experts that are there to serve as a resource for these state regulators who typically are paralyzed by fear and don't have enough information to make an informed decision. So when they have a question, they can come to our advisory panel, which is stocked with scientists and pathologists and a couple of industry schmucks like me, and we can give them advice and say, you know, this is probably a safe transfer, or that's probably a transfer that you should probably not authorize. We've got a network of pathologists who are trying to coordinate what is the best tool to use to analyze the various samples for disease. We've developed a hatchery certification program that allows us to hopefully move away from the need to batch test and batch certify every single batch of seed by going in, working with the hatchery to develop a set of best management practices that once they adopt those, we can go and have them audited once a year, and they'll get 2 samples a year to make sure that they're complying with it. And typically, we're talking about moving very small seed around because they've never been exposed to unfiltered seawater. But if you want to get seed quickly and having to jump through less hoops without the $600 inspection, this is a way to do that. And so we are getting buy-in from the states. We're getting buy-in from the hatcheries. And rather than go to that website, I encourage you to go there and muck around. It's pretty easy, the Regional Shellfish Seed Biosecurity Program. It has the entire best management practices for the hatcheries. The hatcheries that are adopting it are finding them to be reasonable and achievable, and that they really don't have to change much about what they do. And as we get more and more buy-in from the states, we hope that this program will facilitate the interstate movement of seed to the grow-out sites. Now, admittedly, at this point, it is for very small seed, so you probably have to set up an upweller in the receiving state. But what I found is that a number of growers are setting up these fleets of upwellers. They'll buy a bunch of 1 and 2 millimeter seed, grow it out to 8 to 12, and then sell it to the people in their state. And now that seed doesn't have to go across state boundaries. It's a lot easier to do it, and you really drastically reduce the risk of introducing diseases. So, and it turns out that particular phase of the industry, going from 1 to 2 millimeters to 8 to 12 millimeters, is quite a lucrative thing to do, and you can do it in a couple months, and then take the winter off. So, this is really a cool program. I'm really excited that we're working through that, and I'm very proud of the products we're pumping out. We're working on developing floating gear best management practices, because our best management practices manual was written before we had developed some of these programs and different gear designs. So this is clearly a gap in our current best management practices. We're working on that with a SOAR grant. We're still pushing, like I mentioned, on issues like the Jones Act insurance to get out from under this onerous unlimited liability lawsuit where an injured worker can sue you and put you out of business. Even if you have the insurance only covers the first $1 million of liability. And what I'm finding is that most of my members are not buying this insurance because they're already paying into state workers' comp. So they're hanging it out there, and they are, it's not a great place to be. But I'm really hopeful that we might actually be out from under this by the end of the year. And then one of the most burning issues that we're dealing with the ISSC is the guano issue. And, nobody likes to see these bird floats covered with poop. And I used to think that this was not really a big problem because I knew for a fact that actually the product that was under these very floats was being sold to consumers, and they didn't have any reports of illnesses. But then just this past year, we had 8 people go to the hospital due to Campylobacter infections in Rhode Island. So now the FDA is, they were on the warpath before. Now they are really on the warpath. We are trying to work with the aquaculture subcommittee of the ISSC to develop some guidance, because right now there's no guidance on the issue of how many birds are too many. Some states say 1 bird is too many. Some states say 50 is not enough. I don't know. It's a challenge. Some are saying the kites are working well. Some are saying you can't use the kites because these are protected resources, and we don't want you scaring away the protected resources. Every state is taking this differently. We are trying to work with the FDA to develop some prudent guidance so that the states have a little bit of guidelines as to how to interpret the rather vague guidance, which says that if you have gear that may attract birds, you have to have a management plan. Well, they don't tell you what that management plan should look like. So we're working diligently on getting something that's workable there. Again, nothing good comes easy. This is a continuous effort. Most of these are, long pushes, 10, 5-year efforts that come with a huge team of people playing and lots of associations. Getting, teams of growers, every state writing letters to their senators, or working with the NAA and the catfish farmers and other groups. So it's really important that we have as many growers on board. Right now, I've got only 16% of growers are actually members. I know I could do more if I had more support, but nothing good is free. And at this point, hopefully I can try and take some questions.
All right.
Did I come in under time?
You did. So does anybody have any questions for Skid or Bob? Well, Beth, you've got the microphone. You can go around. No, I'm sure there will be. It always takes a minute for one to bubble to the surface. Go ahead, Bob.
I know that Supan is supposedly having a get-together tonight, and I'm supposed to announce where that is, but I don't know where it is.
Because you're not here, he's decided that he's going to rally support at the trade show, and there may be oysters he may recruit members with oysters. So we've got a question.
What are y'all, in the legislation, what are you suggesting replaces the Jones Act? Would regular workman comp cover everything at that point, or how would that go?
What would replace the Jones Act in that push?
Yeah, so the Jones Act, our bill simply says that if you have access to state workers' comp, you are not a seaman under the Jones Act. So your workers would be covered by state workers' comp. Now, if your state won't insure, like there's one state, New York will not insure a boat-based worker. So this bill will not impact New York.
We got another question. I'll have to repeat it for you probably.
I just want to know what the status was of the Gulf Coast chapter.
So what is the status of the Gulf Coast chapter?
Well, I mean, it's been alive. Supan is our rep. We have about a dozen or 16 members from the Gulf. We would love to have more engagement. We would love to have issues raised by Gulf Coast growers that need to be addressed. I'm here to serve you and hear about your issues, and I wish I was there to do that in person. But Soup will have to sit in for me.
And I know Soup's about to take the microphone, but I'll just add, I want to be very clear that Oyster South is a 501c3. Three, right? And cannot lobby on your behalf. That is forbidden by law. It's a charitable organization. So Oyster South, if you're looking for Oyster South to go fight these battles about with the Army Corps or ISSC, we cannot do that. We can help promote the industry, but we can't lobby. So you need something to represent your interests, and that can be the East Coast, the Gulf Coast chapter, or we've got members here from the East Coast as well. It can be the ECSGA, or you can find others, but you do need somebody to represent your interests, and I'll hand it to Supan.
Yeah, well,
Until Soups gets his question in, I just wanted to mention, we used to work very closely with GOIC until Mike Voisin passed away. But, you know, we would love to have a Gulf Coast Association of Growers. But until that happens, I'm trying to step up into the breach and provide services.
Go ahead, Soup.
well, actually, there is an effort based at the Gulf Coast Research Lab from a SOAR grant to do just that, and there's a luncheon tomorrow about that. But there are two sayings that everyone here is probably familiar with that I want to state is one, what you get out of it depends on how much you put into it. That's common for a lot of things you can get into. And the other is you get what you pay for. And I can't think of a better organization right now for Gulf growers than to pay their dues into the East Coast Shellfish Growers Association, because Bob's doing a fantastic job, and it's a thankless job. Anyone who tries to provide leadership in any industry knows it can be a thankless job. And so I want to thank him for the effort that he's done, and I highly recommend, if you're a grower in the Gulf, to become a member of this association.
Skid, for you, that was just Soup. You got that?
I got the gist.
Good. Great. Any other questions for Bob? All right. We'll put his contact information back up there. I know that there is efforts to organize growers, and I think there is a meeting tomorrow for some folks. But John Supan will be here today if you want to ask him questions. I think you're here tomorrow too as well, John? Yeah. Okay. So John is here to represent Gulf Coast chapter through the rest of the meeting. All right, Skid. Thank you very much.
Wish I was there.
All right. Take care.